definition water. Water is everywhere on our planet, and it's the reason we have organic life. It shapes our mountain, grabs our ocean, and drives our weather. It would be logical to think that water must be one of the basic elements, but in reality water is a chemical compound. Why water is not an element? Before mankind knew about atoms and molecules, water was considered an element. Other elements include earth, air, fire, and sometimes metal, wood, or spirit. In some traditional sense, you could consider water an element, but it doesn't qualify as an element according to the scientific definition. An element is substance consisting of only one type of atom. Water consists of two types of atom, hydrogen and oxygen. How water is unequal. The water is everywhere on earth. It is a very unusual compound because of the nature of the chemical bonds between its atoms. Here are a few of its eccentricities. Water is denser in its liquid state than in its solid state, which is why ice can float on or in liquid state. Liquid water. Water has an usually high boiling point based on its molecular weight. Water is often referred to as the universal solvent because of its amazing ability to dissolve so many substances. The water cycle.
Let's look at the science of rain and how raindrops form. First, we'll need the sun. When the sun shines on water on the Earth's surface, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation. Because gases are lighter than liquids, water vapor rises up into the sky. And the further you move up and away from the Earth's surface, the colder the temperature gets. So in the sky, the water vapor cools and changes back into tiny water droplets. This change is called condensation and is the opposite of evaporation. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets, so when condensation occurs in the sky, clouds form and grow. Let's take a closer look. When water droplets bump into one another, they stick together and grow in size. They continue to grow until they are too heavy and fall as rain. They even grow as they bump into one another on their journey from the cloud to the ground. And every single raindrop that reaches the ground is made up of 1 million of the original tiny water droplets. Raindrops fall on the ground surface where the sun can shine on them, and the whole process happens again. This is called the water cycle and keeps water moving from the ground to the sky, providing the water needed for plants, animals, and people to survive. So now you know.
The water state.
Most of the time, we find water in its liquid state, the wet and fluid form of water that we are most familiar with. This is because the temperature is usually somewhere between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or 0 degrees Celsius, water becomes ice, a process known as freezing. When the temperature goes back above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, ice becomes liquid again, a process known as melting. Now, we know what happens to water when it gets cold, but what happens when water gets hot? At 212 degrees Fahrenheit, or 100 degrees Celsius, water becomes a gas. In its gas form, water is known as water vapor. This transition from liquid to gas is called evaporation. Just like the ice, water vapor can also transition back into liquid water. When water vapor cools down below 212 degrees Fahrenheit, it becomes liquid again, a process known as condensation. Let's follow the transition of water through the different temperatures one more time to summarize what we learned in this video. When water gets cold enough, it freezes and turns into ice. We can warm the ice back up so that it melts and becomes liquid again. When water gets very hot, it evaporates and turns into water vapor. If we cool the water vapor back down, it condensates and goes back from gas to liquid. These are the states of water.